Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now look at this. I am going, oops, I've got it upside down. My goodness. I'm going to show you how to do this. This is called offset shells. So I got my pattern in this book and it's called offset shells. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, when you do this pattern, you need 11 stitches plus an extra 7. You want to keep your pattern the same at this end as you do on this end here. So for my blanket, what I did was I started with 3 rows. I started with 3 rows of treble crochet and I did my pattern with 66 stitches. So that gave me 6 pattern repeats on my blanket. The extra 7 stitches is for the 5 that's here plus 2 for extra for the foundation. I'll explain how to do that. Now when I finish this one, I just put an extra 3 rows of treble crochets on the top, and that keeps the top and the sides the same and the bottom. So I'm going to show you how to do the pattern, and it's up to you if you want to add the extra rows of stitches on it. So I'm going to show you how to do this blanket with this. This is a Karen cotton cake and this is absolutely beautiful. I got that in this one. This one is, this one is blushing melon. It says a blushing melon. It might not focus into that. This is a blushing melon. So when you do your chain, you're going to do it in sets of 11 stitches plus an extra 7. And that 7 is 5 to keep your 5 trebles on the end of your pattern on the blanket. And the extra 2 is to help with your very first chain of 3. And that makes up 7 stitches. So I'm going to do a sample, so I'm only going to do 22 stitches. So I'll do that first. I'll chain my 2 sets of 11. You chain your blanket as long as you like. I found that 66 is plenty. It gives you a really nice size blanket. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So that's my first set done. Now don't do your chain too tight. You don't want your blanket to go like that at the bottom. If your chain's too tight, it'll arch up like that. If you can't do it slack, then use a bigger hook. If you use a bigger hook to do your chain and then go back to the hook size that your pattern or your yarn tells you, you'll get a nice chain and it won't bend up like that. So I'm going to do another 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Now I'm going to do an extra 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that, I'll show you again. That's to keep. I've got 5 here and these stitches right up to here makes 11. So I need an extra 5. So I've got a nice, so it keeps the pattern symmetrical. So I've done that extra 5 stitches for this side. So this will be, if you were doing a big blanket, that 11 stitches is your last 11, but you need to add the 5 to do this edge to keep your blanket all symmetrical. So it's sets of 11 plus 5 for those end treble crochets. Then we're going to add another 2. If we start our blanket from here, we'll be taking away some of the stitches from our 11 count, and we don't want that. So I'm going to add an extra 2, 1 and 2. So all together, you're doing sets of 11 plus 7 extra stitches. So those 2 extra stitches help to make my first treble crochet. So my chain of 3 here becomes my first treble crochet. So we're going to do a UK treble crochet. If you're in another country, this is a double crochet. We're going into the 4th stitch in the hook. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now into that 4th stitch, put your yarn over and do a treble crochet. If you're in the USA, this is a double crochet. So what you've made is, that chain becomes your first stitch. So you've got 1 and 2, and we've only used 2 stitches from our count of 11. That's what those extra 2 stitches there were for. If we just did 4, we would have 2 chain short, and we won't be able to you won't be able to complete your pattern. So once again, for this blanket, do sets of 11 stitches plus an extra 7 at the end. So we've got 1 and 2, we need 5. So into the next 3 chain, we're going to do a treble crochet. So that's 1, into the next stitch, 2, into the next stitch. That's our third one to make 5. So you should have 5. That chain counts as your first one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now you're going to skip 2, 1, 2. And into that third one, you're going to put 5 treble crochets. We're going to do our first shell stitch, and it's 5 treble crochets all into the same stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Don't worry about your stitch getting big. We will put at the end, you can put a whole row of treble crochets to neaten that up. So that's you got your first shell. You're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and you're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3, and into the next one we're going to do 5 treble crochets over the next 5 stitches. So that's skip 3, and then we're going to do our 5 treble crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what we did is we did 5 treble crochets, we skipped 2, we put 5 treble crochets into the next stitch, chain 2, skip 3 stitches and did 5 treble crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and do 5 treble crochets into that stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 2, 1, 2. Skip 3 stitches. Now remember the little one there, because sometimes that stitch gets a little bit big. 1, 2 and 3, and you should have 5 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to put a treble crochet into each one of those stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. There we go. Now, what you'll do is, if you've done more sets than that, then you just carry on to the end of your chain, and you should finish with 5 treble crochets. What you're going to do is, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. Now that becomes your first treble crochet. So we're going to put a treble crochet into the top of each one of these. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, oops, get that in the right place, 3 and 4. Now remember, our chain was the first one. So your chain of 3 was your first. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you're going to do now is, we're going to skip that chain and go into this treble crochet here. So into the top of that one of your shell, you're going to put 5 treble crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. You're going to skip that shell, and you're going to do a treble crochet into the top of these trebles on the bottom row. So you're going to do your chain of 2 and go into the top of that treble crochet. That's 1. Into the top of this one. That's 2. This is lovely yarn to use this. 3, 4 and 5. You're going to skip that chain and into the top of that shell, that's your shell, put your 5 treble crochets into that one stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now I told you this was easy. Once you've got that bottom row done, the rest of this is easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 2, 1, 2, jump over that shell and you're going to put a treble crochet into the top of these 5 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and your last one is going into the 3rd stitch in that chain. So count 1, 2 and 3 and put your treble crochet into the top of that chain. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn. That becomes your first treble crochet, and that's how you work this pattern. So do your stitches in sets of 11 and then add an extra 7 on. Once you've got that foundation row done, you're just repeating this row that we've just done. So you chain 3 and put a treble crochet into the top of these stitches. This is so easy and it's so quick to make. I love it when I've got a blanket that crochets quickly. So this time, skip that chain, skip it, and into there you're going to put your 5 treble crochets to make your shell. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 2, 1, 2. Move across that shell and do your 5 treble crochets. A crochet into each of these trebles that's on that row below there. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Skip the chain and do your shell into this first treble crochet of that shell there. No chains at the moment. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All into the same stitch. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and you're going to skip that shell and do your 5 treble crochets. So we're going to skip that shell there, and there's my treble crochet into the top of there. You'll do your treble crochet, 1, 2, the next one's 3, and then the next one, that's 4, and 1 into the top of that chain of 3 there. Count 1, 2 and 3, and into the top of that chain. And this is how your little pattern is looking. Isn't that really pretty? It's really pretty. I think it's really pretty. So once you've done that first row, you're just repeating this row over and over again. So you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn. That counts as your first treble crochet. So you'll do 1 treble crochet above each of these stitches. Skip the chain and do 5 treble crochets into that stitch. Chain 2 and then go over to your treble crochets and do 1 treble crochet into the top of each of those 5 stitches. Then you will jump over to here, put 5 treble crochets in this corner of this shell, into the corner in there, chain 2 and go over here and do your last 5 treble crochets. You'll chain 3 and turn, and pretty soon you'll have a nice big blanket like this one. You'll get a blanket like this. Now what I did to begin with, I did 3 rows of treble crochets first. So I did 3 rows of treble crochets, and then I finished my blanket with, oops, wrong way round. I finished my blanket with 3 rows of treble crochets. So I did say this was a very quick pattern, and that is how you do it. Remember, with the extra stitches, remember the light keeps going and my colour keeps going away. So remember, the extra 5 stitches are to keep your pattern symmetrical. So you've got 5 here and 5 here. You do your blanket as wide as you like, and you can put those 3 treble crochet rows on first. So what you'll do is you will do your, for my blanket was 66 stitches plus that extra 7, and what I did was I did 3 rows of treble crochet. I started going into the 4th stitch in my chain, just the same as I did here, and then I did 3 rows of treble crochet, and then I started the pattern. And at the end of my blanket, once I got it as big as I wanted, I just did 3 rows of treble crochet on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few more rows, and I'll come back and I'll show you what this looks like. And this is a really pretty stitch for a scarf, for a blanket, or for anything that you can, a nice big throw for your bed. And this is called offset shells. It's really pretty. So just remember that you do your set, just remember, do your chain in sets of 11. That takes you to that chain there. It's a repeat of that, just that one row, your 5 treble crochets, your 1 shell, your 5 treble crochets, your 1 shell, and then you turn it and you work back the other way. 5 treble crochets, and you're doing 1 shell. It's really easy and it's really quick. Remember, when you do your sets of 11, to add that extra 7 stitches. So that's 5 to cover these, and it's 2 extra is to make that, help make that very first chain stitch, so you don't lose your stitch count. So remember, it's sets of 11 stitches, 11 plus 7 extra stitches on your chain when you do your chain. So thank you very much for watching. Until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.